Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Cindy-Eve. And hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. It is really great to rejoin you for the last day of the summit and for this session on opportunities in the EU for women exporters. I know that there's a lot to dig into this afternoon, but before we get started, I want to share a few words. As I said earlier at this summit's opening, we know times have been tough. Some of you may be here today to explore the possibility of new markets in Europe, or some may be well versed in exporting, but looking to expand even further. I want you to know that our government is here for you and that we know you can do it because we've seen your resilience and your adaptability throughout this pandemic, which has been one of the greatest challenges of modern times. So I'd really like to begin by thanking all of you for your strength and for helping to flatten the curve, putting your fellow Canadians' health first. There's a light at the end of the tunnel and we can see it. I also want you to know that our government supports your aspirations to grow your businesses in the dynamic market of the EU every step of the way. Free trade agreements, such as CETA, are instrumental to Canada's trade diversification strategy, ensuring that everyone, including women entrepreneurs, can access the opportunities and the benefit of trade. As I said to all of you the other day, Canada's trade toolbox is there to help make this happen. You'll hear more about how our Trade Commissioner Service, Export Development Canada, and the Business Development Bank of Canada are each using this investment to support women entrepreneurs during their individual presentations a little later today. I'm really looking forward to talking with the women on the panel shortly about how they've used different parts of this trade toolbox to launch into the EU and to grow their businesses. There are so many ways that our government wants to ensure the success of women in businesses at home and, of course, abroad. Most recently, we created the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy, which I am very humbled to lead. This is nearly a $5 billion investment that will increase women-owned businesses, helping them get access to financing, talent, networks, and expertise that they need to start up, scale up, and to access new markets. And as well, just last week, actually, it's not last week, it feels like last week, it's about a month now, I was part of Canada's first ever virtual women-led trade mission to South Korea to help women entrepreneurs scale up and to access the Asian market. This is very similar to what we're doing here today. And I know that this pandemic has been hard on women across industries and especially our women entrepreneurs. Our government is here to support you throughout these difficult times because we know that women are key to moving our communities and our economies forward into the recovery and beyond. It's why, in addition to the new supports that we announced earlier this week in the Fall Economic Statement, our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance also announced that we are currently laying the groundwork for a Canada-wide childcare system. I've heard this a lot from female entrepreneurs across the country. Our government knows that this is not only the right thing to do for our youngest generation, it's also crucial in supporting women across Canada as they push forward in their careers. With all this in mind, I encourage all of the hardworking, innovative women entrepreneurs out there to use the resources that I have talked about and the knowledge that they have gained from this summit to give Europe the best gift that anyone could ask: give them more of Canada. So again, thank you so much to all of you for joining in this exciting summit and particularly in today's panel. So thank you, merci, and now over to you, Ambassador Udon.
Merci, merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre. I want to start by saying that it's great that you've been that you've accepted the invitation and that great number of you are in front of your computer listening and trying to understand how to do it. But I want to say, Minister Ng, how important it is what you're doing and that you have decided that yes, there's the pandemic, yes, there's the COVID, but we have to be inventive and we have to be creative to keep the conversation going on trade. Trade will be very, very, very important out of this crisis for our Canadian economy, and especially those companies being led and owned by women. So, Minister Ng, chapeau à vous. Maintenant, vous êtes nombreuses et peut-être nombreux également à avoir accepté l'invitation et je vous en félicite. Je vous félicite de considérer l'exportation comme un axe de croissance pour votre entreprise. Vous avez du succès au Canada. Les clients apprécient vos produits. Vos clients et clientes apprécient vos services et vous vous posez la question, comment grandir, grossir, enrichir cette liste de clients et vous considérez d'exporter davantage ou d'exporter tout court. Si vous vous décidez à tenter votre chance à exporter en Europe, je vous lève mon chapeau et je vous dis que le marché européen représente 1,5 milliard de clients. 500 millions de clients possibles en Europe et pourquoi pas débuter en France avec 70 millions de population. Là, il y a un peu moins d'un an, nous recevions ici à Paris une mission commerciale avec 75 femmes entrepreneurs. Certaines qui exportaient déjà, d'autres qui n'avaient pas encore lancé leur activité d'exportation. Certaines d'entre elles sont arrivées à Paris extrêmement dynamiques et conscientes du plein potentiel. D'autres, peut-être comme vous, doutaient du réel potentiel et avaient bien sûr certains vertiges sur la réalité de l'exportation. Je veux vous dire que vous n'êtes pas seul. Le gouvernement canadien est là avec des programmes de l'appui et également dans chacune de nos missions, comme ici à Paris, des équipes de services commerciaux. Ils sont ici, nos délégués commerciaux, ils connaissent le marché, ils connaissent l'économie canadienne et ils sont là pour vous appuyer, vous écouter et vous aider à mieux comprendre le marché et percer dans le marché. Des 75 femmes qui ont participé à la mission commerciale il y a un an, certaines d'entre elles ont déjà des contrats signés, certaines d'entre elles sont encore à négocier certains contrats et certaines d'entre elles sont en train de trouver le filon. Les 75 participants sont retournés au Canada pleinement satisfaits de leur expérience. D'ailleurs, lors d'une autre mission commerciale en 2018, avec notre ministre, à l'époque, le ministre Champagne, on avait Solène. Solène, vous allez la rencontrer sur le panel. Elle sera l'une des panélistes. Et Solène était ici pour présenter sa technologie. Et depuis, Solène connaît du succès et j'ai bien hâte qu'elle partage avec vous ses meilleures recommandations et conseils pour percer en Europe. Et je vous le dis encore une fois, pourquoi pas commencer en France? Nous sommes là pour vous aider. Alors, mesdames, ayez l'ambition de faire croître votre entreprise. Ayez l'ambition de vouloir vous ouvrir sur le monde. Vous aurez des vertiges, bien entendu. Nous sommes là pour vous appuyer et nous sommes là pour vous outiller également vers le succès et la croissance. Merci.
Merci, Madame l'Ambassadrice. Thank you, Minister, for those inspiring, welcoming remarks. Now, let me introduce you to our business champion who will participate in a fireside discussion with Minister Ng and Ambassador Udon. They will share their experience in the European Union and provide key recommendations should you choose to take the leap and explore opportunities in the European Union. Please prepare your questions. We will have a Q&A after the fireside chat. And if you want to ask questions, please email them to ftale.bpe@international.gc.ca. Our team will feed the questions to our panelists. Now, for our first business champion, Nathalie Romer is Chief Operating Officer at Optimus Management Group based in British Columbia. The company specializes in advisory services to transportation facilities and on improving customer experience in commercial areas. Shamira Jaffer is CEO Signify Solution Inc., based in Ontario. Signify develops complex solutions from smart lockers and automated retails. Solène Brouard-Gaillot est la PDG et la fondatrice de Polysiver, une entreprise dans le secteur des technologies propres très innovatrice basée au Québec. Nathalie, Shamira et Solène, bienvenue. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Minister Inc., the virtual floor is yours.
Merci, Cindy-Ève, and it's really lovely to have Ambassador Udon, of course, join us for today's panel. Ambassador Udon, you carried into your global leadership on behalf of Canada your enormous background as a female leader and a female entrepreneur. And so I think that you are the perfect person to be joining us today. And as I said earlier, when we spoke at the Business Champions panel, listening to peers and walking in their shoes is an incredibly valuable experience. So I want to thank all of our panelists who are here today, and you're going to offer and share your stories, your successes, your challenges, and just your experience along the way. So maybe with that, I'm going to start first by asking the first question to Nathalie. Nathalie, I understand you were first introduced to the EU market and supplier diversity, the certification through the Trade Commissioner Services Women-Focused Business Delegation to both Germany and the UK back in November of 2018. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about why that mission was important to your business getting into the EU?
Sure, thank you very much. So we have been doing business in parts of the US as well as the Caribbean. And we felt that because we work in the transportation sector, Europe was an opportunity for us because of the many airports and train stations throughout Europe. So the trade mission gave us the opportunity to explore the market and go and see what it's like over there, talk to people on the ground, get some expert knowledge that we didn't have. Consequently, what we found out was that the market was really dominated by some large players. And for us as a small company to penetrate the market, it would require the resources that we didn't have in place. So we shifted our strategy to find a local partner to work with. And I'm happy to say that we're now working with a company. We actually have a project in the EU. And that was a result of the knowledge that we found and what we learned from our trade mission. That mission was also really critical for us in another way, in that it opened the door for us to work with trade commissioners' offices in the different markets that we're exploring. And we have a local trade commissioner in Vancouver that we work regularly with. And we actually discuss our strategy. If we're thinking about a new market, we actually get introductions through him to local trade commissioners in these different markets so that we can learn a little more before we jump in with both feet. So the experience we had from that particular trade mission has opened the doors to us working with trade commissioners all over the world. And the knowledge that they bring is so invaluable. And I urge any company that's thinking about exporting, is the first thing you should do is talk to your local trade commissioner. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Nathalie. I couldn't agree with you more. I often describe the incredible team of the Trade Commissioner Services, Canada's best business development team for Canadian companies. We literally have over 1,300 of them around the world. We operate in 160 countries. I mean, so imagine the Canadian presence and that network that the Trade Commissioner Service provides to businesses. So we have them domestically here in Canada to help you before you leave, and then certainly in country. The ambassador certainly talked about the very enormously wonderful team in France. And maybe what I'll do is have the ambassador pick up where she left off, which is that she's really been such a leader and a champion for helping Canadian business access that market in France. And Ambassador, can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, we've seen business missions and women-led business missions go to France, and you and your team have been really, really helpful at that. But maybe you can sort of, dig down just a little further to the remarks that you had earlier, and give our companies who are here thinking about entry into France, like what in a practical way, what should they be thinking about, as they pursue and look to France?
Very good question, Minister. First of all, I have to say that I'm not a former business people. I think that you're a businesswoman for life.
Yes.
So I brought my business skills to diplomacy.
Right.
And I was thinking, Minister, that I would be missing the business part of the life that I left behind in Canada to discover this trade team here in Paris, with whom I can talk business and from both a French perspective and a Canadian perspective. And they have the right questions. And first and foremost, of course, they're ready to help big global companies, but they are experts for SMEs. They know very well the market, and they know to give what kind of best advice they have to give. First of all, they will say, get prepared. Second, they will tell you, leaders, to connect and reconnect and stay in touch. And to the Francophones on the screen and listening, I would also say that c'est pas parce qu'on parle la même langue qu'on partage la même culture. And it's often a piece of advice that we give to Francophone leaders and business leaders, that we need to consider looking into the business culture in France. So they'll give you very granular advice. And Nathalie, I'm pretty sure that they went into granularity with you when you thought about coming into the European market. And you need to listen to them and not to be afraid. They will be there by your side. They will help. They will keep you well aware of what's going on. And they will stir you towards the right people to meet with and to meet again and again. And Nathalie, if I can add, what I like,
that is really good and sound advice. And on this, I'm gonna turn to Shamira, and Shamira, of course, is the CEO of Signify Solutions Industrial, and picking up on what the ambassador just said, you have grown your business into the European Union. You've done it through hard work, and you've certainly done it through both hard work and patience. And today, a success getting into that European market. So can you talk about how you access, I call it the trade toolbox, because that's what it is. I mean, there are many features of it, from the Trade Commissioner Service to Export Development Canada and others. But can you just tell us from your standpoint, as as the CEO of your company who have gotten into the EU market now with success, how did you access it? Help our businesses understand how some of those government resources in this trade toolbox helped you.
The first thing we do when we go to any new country is we go out, we talk, we get contacts before we fly there. When we get there, we set up a meeting. The one thing I love about the trade commissioners, when we go visit them, is we're not dealing with government type people, we're dealing with business type people. So it's a very interesting, it's something that really surprised me into the amount of knowledge they have, the understanding they have. They've worked with so many different types of businesses, so they give us really information that's worthwhile. So to give you an example, we now have 2 people in France, and we were very concerned about employment practices, because there's very different rules there. we were concerned about how do we set that entity up? Do we do an agent agreement? Do we actually do a joint venture? All of that type of stuff. We got good information, and then they also put us in touch with the other people that we can speak to if we want to go further. Now, when we went into Germany, we hired a GM. Our GM for Europe is out of Germany. And again, we needed to understand how we contract with them. We also wanted contacts in manufacturing, both in France and Germany. And we were able to get really good references, and get some direction. I think it's really important when you go there to really listen and understand. Every country is very, very different. And spending the time with the commissioners, really, I think it's just an absolute thing you have to do when you go into any new country.
That is terrific. Thank you so much for that. I'm now going to turn to Solène, and the ambassador has already given you a terrific introduction, Solène, the founder of Police d'Hiver. And why don't you share with us? I know in your example, I mean, not only were you a part of the trade mission that went to Paris, but you did take advantage of CanExport for SMEs in particular. And we've had to do some modifications in the midst of COVID because businesses were telling us that they absolutely want this support, except that the support we were providing needed to be modified so that it could be helpful in the COVID context. But maybe you could share your experience with us and certainly with the entrepreneurs who are here online. Solène, s'il vous plaît.
Yes, indeed, Police d'Hiver received the CanExport SME funding for 30,000 of the period June 2019 to March 2020. And this helped us to further develop selected markets, including Germany, Switzerland, and Poland. And this also helped us to advance business discussion and further develop relationship with key European customers. So we were able to process sample for them and to submit service proposal after they considered the trial were satisfying. That was very positive. And also this helped us to access local experts to gather specific intelligence on the polystyrene industry in Europe. Because as you know, we do polystyrene recycling, and that was very important to have access to this advisor to very well understand the European market. And indeed, all of that was before the pandemic. So the SME funding also allowed us to participate to some fair and event in Europe, especially in Germany, where we were able to meet some very key players. So that was extremely helpful to establish contact and then to submit a business proposition.
That's really terrific. I mean, I think that what all of you are saying here is that that you really worked hand in glove with the Trade Commissioner Services and the network of supports that the Canadian government provides. As the ambassador said, she might want to jump in here. I mean, because she, we develop them with very much entrepreneurs in mind and businesses in mind. But the ambassador is on the ground. I mean, in the country with an enormous team. Ambassador, do you want to comment here at all?
Yes, thank you very much, Minister. First of all, between Shamira, Nathalie, and Solène, there's a red thread whereby you talked about programs and access to different programs and financing from the toolbox that you've mentioned, Minister, but also the advice that you got from the trade commissioners on meeting local experts and local partners. Often it's easier to get into a market by an association with a local partner. And Nathalie, you've mentioned this, and Solène, I know very well also that we were able to introduce you to experts/partners. So it's not only a question of giving you access to great programs. I'm not saying that those programs are not key to your success, but also we are capable of introducing you to experts and potential partners that might invest in your business, that you might decide to invest in their business. And I would recommend that you think about partnering in a market that you don't know, because it will accelerate the understanding of the culture and how we do business in a different country than Canada.
Merci, Isabelle. Natalie, I'm going to come back to you because we are a panel here of female-led businesses, and you're a technology business. I mean, you're a woman in technology. Tell us why you chose to keep your business as women-owned, women-led, and sort of, you know, how you have, you know, kept that sort of that talent in an area that I think increasingly, I hope, is changing rapidly, but it certainly had its challenges, which is why you know, our government put a fund together specifically for women in technology. But Natalie, share your experience, because I know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs here, women entrepreneurs, particularly in technology, and I think they would benefit from your advice and your experience.
So my business partner and I have a career that spanned over 30 years. So certainly in that time, you know, we raised a young family. We took care of our elderly parents later on, and we did all of that without ever stopping work. So we know what it's like to balance family, career, demanding jobs, and not let anybody down. So when we had the opportunity to form our business, we wanted to look at how are we going to do this differently, so that women don't have to sacrifice or feel that they're sacrificing anything in order to have a career and keep working and doing what they love. So our business is we use a lot of technology. We adopted Zoom. We were early adopters of Zoom before Zoom became a thing. And by virtue of that, our team is spread out all over the place. We're interested in the deliverables, not how they deliver it. They deliver it when they do it when they can, as long as we work together. And technology allows us to collaborate and still, you know, keep in touch so that you don't have that feeling of isolation when you're working from home. And it allows women who maybe they want to stay home and take care of a young family, or they need some flexibility to take care of their parents. Whatever the demands are, they can still have a career and not feel like they're falling behind because they had to take some time off. It allows women to gear down when they need to and still stay in touch with the workforce and continue to pursue their work life. The second reason why it's important for us to be women-owned and women-led is to show that, you know, we can do it. We work in the transportation sector, which has been predominantly male, but we want to show that, you know what, we have a place at the table, and all we have to do is work together, be creative. I'm not saying that it's not hard work. Of course, it's hard work as an entrepreneur, but that's what is so rewarding, is that you can get creative, work together to find solutions, and lean on others. You know, there are lots of resources out there, and we talked about the trade commissioners being one, but there are a lot of networking groups, other entrepreneur groups that you can lean on for knowledge. And the one thing women are really good at, I think, is supporting each other. And so that's why we hope that our business becomes a model for future women entrepreneur companies.
Very much for that, Natalie. I couldn't agree with you more. When I think about the policies of our government, I mean, while I get to, you know, lead the women's entrepreneurship strategy, I certainly don't do this alone. There is, you know, you know, sort of, we've created sort of ecosystems of support and a range of, you know, range of tools, from being able to, you know, provide better access to capital, to better mentorship partnership and creating more of those networks. But that's only sort of part of the equation. The other part of the equation is what I just talked about, which is, the commitment for national childcare, the commitment to change parental leave rules that enable partners in both, in a family to make choices about continuing, having a female leader continuing to run their business or be the head of, be the leader of their organization. It is making sure that the Canada Child Benefit that actually is helping families. When you help families, you help businesses. So our government's very deliberate at making sure that, social policies actually are complementing economic policies as well. So I would very, very much agree with you there. And maybe here I'm going to go back to Shamira because you have taking your business and have found success in the EU market. I know that everyone here today, and it's over, overall in this session is over 1,100 businesses, which is spectacular. I mean, for a virtual virtual conference like the one we've just had over the last couple of days. But so while the learning is about how to get into the EU through CETA, you are looking to expand and jump, sort of jump starting from the success into EU to an even larger global market. Can you talk about that experience and where, and how that experience in the EU is helping you sort of gain more traction globally to grow your business?
Yeah. So first of all, because we're also a technology company, when we got into the EU, the reason we really felt it was critical is in some areas, really, they are much more advanced than us in terms of innovation. In others, we are more advanced. And we felt quite strongly that if we didn't get into the European market, at some point, the Europeans would be kind of, competing with us in our market. So it was really critical to get there. And what's been really interesting now is, when you talk about, we always talk about EU, but now we talk about EMEA, which is, includes the Middle East, includes Africa. For instance, with our French team, we are now working on a very big WPF project. That's for Sudan and Kenya. We just closed a large deal with Dubai Electric. But, just being in the same time zone as the Middle East and Africa has opened up that market. Although we were doing work with that market before, it's very different now because you've got people in the exact same time zone. They're very used to working with the Europeans, and that's really just opened that up to a completely different level. It was unexpected, but it's really allowed us to now get into projects that are multi-million-dollar projects that we may not have been able to do, sitting in Canada.
Very good point, and I think the ambassador sees examples of that of Canadian companies that also are using France as sort of the jumping point into other, into other markets. I often tout that Canada is in a very enviable place from its market access standpoint on behalf of our Canadian businesses, because we're the only G7 country that has a free trade agreement with every other G7 country. We have access to about 65% of the world's economy. We have access to 1.5 billion customers. And the work really is to continue to help pursue those market access opportunities for our Canadian companies. Ambassador Houdon and I were both on a mission. It was partly a trade mission, but also a government mission with the Prime Minister earlier this year when we were still able to travel in Africa, looking at opportunities. So continuing to expand into those markets is certainly something that we will continue to do on the one hand, but agreements are only as good as the businesses that actually are supported and to grow into those markets and to take advantage of the agreements. And I've got sort of the last question here, and I'm going to bring it right back to CETA. And Solène, this is for you. In this conference, many of the businesses are learning the ins and outs of CETA. What is it? How is it beneficial for us? How do I begin? So can you share with us? I mean, I feel like you've become a CETA expert. So maybe you can just sort of share some of your experience and wisdom with the audience. And I'm going to also throw that to the ambassador as well after you, Solène.
Yes, for sure, thank you. Si vous voulez bien, je vais prendre celle-ci en français. Donc, en fait, le CETA, ça nous a bénéficié directement, d'abord parce que ça, entre autres, ça facilite l'entrée temporaire des travailleurs qualifiés. Donc, nous, ça nous a permis de trouver un chercheur qui est vraiment à la fine pointe dans les technologies de polymères. C'était pas facile à trouver, puis le fait qu'il puisse rentrer plus facilement, ça nous a clairement aidé. Ensuite, le CETA, c'est vraiment connu pour la réduction des droits de douane, donc c'est très bien pour les compagnies qui exportent des produits. Nous, on exporte surtout des services, mais ça nous a aussi beaucoup aidé parce que l'Europe est quand même reconnue pour sa réglementation qui est vraiment très contraignante. Et donc, on a pu trouver des conseillers européens qui nous ont aidés à bien comprendre quelles étaient les réglementations européennes et quels étaient les besoins du marché européen. Et donc, on a adapté notre offre de services et on a même fait des modifications dans nos contrats pour rencontrer ces exigences-là. Donc, vraiment, ça nous a fait avancer. Et puis aussi sur la propriété intellectuelle. Donc, nous, on est vraiment une compagnie qui est basée sur la propriété intellectuelle. Donc, comment bien défendre notre pays en Europe et trouver les conseillers légaux pour développer une stratégie de propriété intellectuelle, ça a vraiment été stratégique pour nous, en fait.
Terrific. Ambassador, do you want to help us on this one as well?
Of course, thank you, Minister Solène. You're raising a very good point on meeting local experts to bring light and more details to what you need to know and what you need to consider. And also, Solène made a very, very relevant comment here on CETA. CETA is not only a trade deal on lowering custom fees and other fees, but also mobility of talent. And that's something that you need to consider. The mix of expertise and talent will bring your business elsewhere and further along the way. Shamira, the comment that you made, thinking if we're not going into Europe, Europe will come to us, and not necessarily with the same benefits, because you reaching out to the European market and experts and partners, well, you're growing your business. The reverse is not necessarily the same ending, and probably not an as happy ending. So keep in mind that you need to reach out, you need to meet with people, you need to get ready, you need to be very ready, but to do that, we are here to help, both in Canada and abroad.
Merci beaucoup, Ambassador. I want to thank all of the panelists, Shamira, Solène, and Nathalie. Thank you so much for joining us and for offering your incredible experience and stories and advice to the women entrepreneurs who are here and for all of the companies that are here online with us. I hope that these experiences are helpful to you and that you are seeing the women behind these enterprises, and that is providing you some insight and some ideas of your own to explore into the EU market. And merci beaucoup. It's so wonderful to spend this time. Ambassadors, always lovely to see you. I wish you and I were in person, but we will do that again, all of us, when it is safe to do so. And now I'm going to pass things over to BDC and EDC, who are two extraordinary tools in the Canada Trade Toolbox. And so Laura Dudek and Jennifer Cook, over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today to tell you what BDC has done, is doing, and will continue to do support the growth of women entrepreneurs. We know that having more women entrepreneurs is good for Canada, and that closing the gender gap will add to the Canadian economy. And this is why, since 2015, BDC has supported the growth and the success of women entrepreneurs at every step of their business. We know that women still face unique challenges when it comes to starting and growing their business, from accessing capital and resources to finding mentors and champions to support them. And to top it off, research shows that COVID-19 has affected women entrepreneurs more than men. And as a matter of fact, there's some research that just came out on Wednesday, it was released by FreshBooks, that reports that women-owned businesses are taking nearly twice as long to recover from the financial setbacks brought on by COVID-19 compared to businesses owned by men. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So BDC, acknowledging the specific needs of women entrepreneurs, is striving to accompany them in their unique entrepreneurial journey. We've provided more than $1.5 billion in financing to majority women-owned businesses over the last 3 years. And we are proud to work with over 8,400 majority women-owned businesses and have approved actually over 3,000 loans to women entrepreneurs just since March to help them through the pandemic. And we've also remained active in our Women in Tech Fund at $200 million. It is the largest venture capital equity fund exclusively dedicated to women in tech in the world. And our goal with this fund is to empower not only women CEOs, but the entire leadership teams to encourage more diversity and inclusion in key leadership positions. We invest in companies from seed to scale, and our companies have raised more than $350 million in additional capital and generated more than $260 million in revenue since 2020 alone. So despite the crisis, the good news is that we continue to see the emergence of new women-led tech companies coming to the market and to solve real-world problems by focusing on large markets. And we have stayed committed to supporting women entrepreneurs through the pandemic and into their recovery. We've provided them with free online tools. We have webinars, articles, and advice. We have and will continue to actively participate and contribute to all the great virtual events that are being hosted by organizations such as this one and groups that support women. And since April, we've been hosting virtual roundtables and one-on-ones and workshops with the help of our own internal advisory services specialists, as well as external ecosystem partners to help business owners map out their next steps, identify their new opportunities so that businesses can survive and emerge into the recovery. But we also know that having access to markets is very important for businesses to be successful. And this is why it was really important to us to create opportunities by expanding the presence of diverse suppliers into our procurement process. So 2 years ago, we implemented a supplier diversity program, which we continue today to expand on. And I suggest everyone go to our website, and there's a spot called I Am a Supplier where they can register to be a supplier of the bank. So it's very important to us to continue to listen to women entrepreneurs and understand their challenges and needs so that we can help connect with them ourselves, or we can connect them with one of our partners who can help them. We'll go to the next slide. So our goal is about bringing additional women entrepreneurs to our doors and help familiarize them with the financing options that are open to them and provide them with guidance that they need to overcome their challenges and run stronger businesses. We strive to understand the needs of women entrepreneurs and provide them with the tools that they need to survive and to thrive. We know that there is a very strong growing ecosystem, and our role is to connect women entrepreneurs into that ecosystem, knowing that they may not have the connections themselves, and connect them with the people that are able to help them. With our many partners at the regional, national, and international level, they are so important to us because we know that we can collectively help women entrepreneurs scale up faster if we work together. And finally, we've made it a priority to increase our visibility on our accessibility online. What we're doing is we're sharing stories of growth, resilience, their pivots, their challenges, and their learnings through our social media networks. And we're trying to join the conversation and dealing with real-time issues so we understand them, like taking parts in live events such as this one today. So we'll go to the final slide. I had to finish with this slide because I am so proud of our website, bdc.ca, and I'm especially proud of our women entrepreneur page, bdc.ca/women, where in big, bold words in the middle of the page, we have unlock your potential. It's so, so true. We have lots of stories, tools, ebooks, webinars, podcasts, blogs, and I could go on that we've developed, all with Canadian small and medium-sized businesses in mind, that are available for free to everyone. And actually, our latest ebook that we just released, very timely given this session, is Growing in International Markets. So I do recommend that everyone look at that. So I'll end it there because I could go on, but I do want to give Jennifer Cook, my colleague at EDC, lots of time to speak because they're one of our best partners and they're also doing amazing things for women entrepreneurs. So thank you.
Thank you, Lara. Now, let's hear from Jennifer Cook, who's the corporate lead Women in Trade at Export Development Canada and EDC's Women Focus Initiative. Jennifer, over to you.
As Canada's export credit agency, we are Canada's international risk experts. We leverage our deep knowledge of international trade and global buyers to enable us to help customers navigate these risks with confidence. We offer powerful tools such as trade credit insurance so that you can take smarter risks to grow safely. With EDC's financing solutions, you can access the working capital you need to fuel your success abroad. And we offer specialized, up-to-date international insights and knowledge resources to allow you to make informed business decisions and increase your success abroad. There's many misconceptions about exporting and about EDC. And the main one is that it's only for large companies or those making and shipping products overseas. But in fact, and as we've heard today, we help companies of all sizes and in all sectors, including those whose business is in delivering services or technology. Next slide, please. I'm actually going to go one more slide, please. So these are some facts and figures which outline why this mandate is so important to us. The long and the short of it is, as you can read all those numbers on the slide, is that exporting companies do better, and having more women exporters is really great for our communities and for our economy. Next slide, please. So EDC's approach to supporting the growth and success of women-owned and women-led businesses is grounded in 5 main pillars. It starts with inspiring and building awareness among women entrepreneurs about taking their business global and about how EDC can help. And joining events like today is the first step in doing that. Next is educating by providing the knowledge and the skills so that women can export with confidence. We want to provide connections, both to the ecosystem of organizations that can help, as well as to specific opportunities internationally. Fourthly is enabling with the right financial tools. And finally, empowering more women with our corporate support for gender equity and women's economic empowerment broadly. At the end of the day, success will be when there are more women-owned and women-led businesses providing their goods and services to the world. Next slide, please. We've invested dedicated resources and set targets to hold ourselves accountable to the objectives of facilitating $2 billion in trade for women-owned and women-led businesses by 2023. And I'm happy to report we're already very close to achieving this goal. We've launched initiatives aimed at creating more opportunities for women to access new markets and to access the capital they need to grow beyond borders. This year, we took steps to lay the foundation for launching a supplier diversity program similar to BDC with our own procurement, including becoming corporate members of WeConnect International and WeBe Canada, who you will also hear from today. We've activated a squad of champion the country to proactively reach out to women entrepreneurs and have formed partnerships with Canadian organizations who are supporting our women entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. One important initiative that we launched in 2019 was our Women in Trade Investment Program, a $100 million fund to provide equity capital to high-growth women-owned and led companies that are scaling globally. Through this fund, we also invest in other venture capital funds who show a commitment to promoting gender equity, both in their portfolios as well as in their investment decision-making team. We believe that increasing the number of women investors is key to addressing the capital gap for women entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. So to recap, no matter the challenges or barriers you may be facing at any stage of your export journey, you can connect with EDC, who's a resourceful partner that can facilitate and fuel your success abroad. There's so much more to learn, so please do check out edc.ca/women-in-trade. Next slide, please. And I'd like to close today by sharing an example of how Sampler, a women-owned technology company, leveraged EDC to drive their global growth. Next slide. Marie Chevrier, the founder of Sampler, set out to help consumer brands distribute their samples in more targeted ways, leveraging her technology. Sampler uses software to deliver product samples, everything from cosmetics to baby products, to digitally targeted customers all over the world, ensuring that their samples are getting into the hands of the right people. Through powerful data, they also help their customer brands gather insights on who their brand cheerleaders are. Since its launch, Sampler has developed great relationships with brands that they've landed some amazing opportunities, including outside of Canada. One partnership really helped to set Sampler on its global journey, and this is when they got the opportunity to work with L'Oreal, securing a contract for 11 countries right out of the gate. And that's when Sampler turned to EDC for support. As this was a fast turnaround and so many Sampler resources were committed to delivering on this contract, the company wanted to make sure that they were protected. Sampler worked with EDC to structure an accounts receivable insurance policy to protect them against the risk of non-payment in all 11 countries. This is a risk which would have devastated the young company. Sampler explains that their customers drive the markets that they focus on as they continue to build new relationships with customers. Along their journey, they've also required increases to their working capital and investments to grow, and these are also areas where EDC has continued to further support Sampler as they scale globally. This is really just one example of the many success stories of Canadian women in trade. Thank you so much.
Thank you for such an interesting presentation, Laura and Jennifer. You did an amazing job in demonstrating the integration of our activities and how we work together as a team to support Canadian SMEs. Thank you again. Thank you again. I just wanted to mention that some of the companies featured today have benefited from the Trade Commissioner Service, BDC, as well as EDC services. We work collectively in order to help you, our Canadian entrepreneur. This is our Team Canada approach. Our next panel will focus on supplier diversity. They support diverse suppliers to access global opportunities with large corporations. I invite all attendees to connect with the certifying bodies listed on the slide. You will hear from Elizabeth Vasquez, who is the CEO and co-founder of WeConnect International, and Sylvia Penkak, who is the president of WeBe Canada, on how supplier diversity can support women-owned enterprises' international business development. Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning, Sylvia. Just 1 second, we're going to wait to have my panelists. Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning, Sylvia. Rebonjour, Madame l'ambassadrice. Ça va bien?
Hello.
Parfait. On vous entend très bien. We are hearing you very well in Ottawa. So I'm going to start with you, Elizabeth. In a few words, what is supplier diversity and how does it support women entrepreneurs across the globe?
So first, merci beaucoup for the event organizers, the minister, the ambassador. It's wonderful to see you, the inspiring business owners featured, and of course our members, BDC and EDC. Supplier diversity, as Sylvia well knows, and inclusion is a strategy to buy products and or services from diverse suppliers. Depending on the country, these businesses could be owned by women, Indigenous, visible minorities, women of the LGBT or people of the LGBTQ plus community, people with disabilities, veterans, or other groups. It really depends on the country, and supplier diversity and inclusion is not about preferential treatment. It's really about access to contracts. everyone has an equal opportunity. And this concept stems from the 1960s American Civil Rights Movement, but today the US federal government leverages it to procure from underutilized small businesses, including women-owned enterprises. This is a movement, and thanks to everyone here, it's growing. We Connect International is a nonprofit that certifies businesses that are at least 51% owned, managed, and controlled by one or more women. And the goal is to help women-owned businesses grow by making it easier for buyers to source from women suppliers. Today, We Connect International is serving member buyers and women-owned businesses based in over 125 countries, including Canada and the EU. We Connect International member buyers joined us because they wanted one global network of peer buyers to share best practices around the world, and they wanted a global database of women suppliers that can register for free or get certified, and today that's in almost 50 countries. So certification opens doors for women-owned businesses seeking access to training, networking, tender opportunities that are offered by large buyers. And to continue to make it as easy as possible, We Connect International recently launched our new We Community platform. This is in 10 languages so that corporations, governments, multilateral institutions can source more products and services from women suppliers across the globe, and to make it easier for the women business owners to do business with each other, which the ambassador knows well how important it is to have a platform available in English, French, and many other languages, because these women are desperate to find each other and do business together. So it's an exciting time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Sylvia, I understand that supplier diversity requires certification as a business to be at least 51% owned, managed, and controlled by one or more women. Can you tell us why certification is so important?
Absolutely. And, just like We Connect International, VB Canada, and other councils, which certify businesses, that 51% certification or verification is crucial for buyers to understand that they are bringing the right suppliers into their supply chain through supplier diversity programs. Supplier diversity programs are almost like set-asides. So these are initiatives which allow extra access or additional access for women-owned businesses to access, and other diverse groups to access that other businesses do not have. The reason being because women-owned businesses and other diverse groups are traditionally disadvantaged. So verification provides almost the peace of mind to the buyers that they are supporting the right businesses, they are providing the tools and the resources to the right businesses. Certification doesn't only serve for procurement purposes, it also serves for mentorship, training, and networking opportunities. So as Elizabeth already mentioned, as councils, in addition to certification, we actually do provide training and support for businesses. At VB Canada, we focus solely on Canadian women-owned businesses. We connect women-owned businesses to each other. We connect them to the resources in Canada. As you know, you mentioned earlier, Team Canada approach is what we do. And we are very happy to just report that approach is actually working. So we have lots of examples of women-owned businesses in our database who are actually doing business internationally and globally, thanks to the support of Global Affairs Canada, BDC, EDC. Canadian government has incredible support system, incredible resources. If we had more time, maybe next time, I would be happy to talk about more examples of how Global Affairs Canada Can Export program is helping women-owned businesses, or even a World Trade Center's TAP program, Trade Accelerator program, is supporting and helping scale up businesses and get them into global markets. But what is really important is that certification really helps you to understand that what type of resources are available, how to get out there, connect to the buyers directly, directly, access matchmaking, networking opportunities, meet the buyers, connect with buyers, and of course, the cherry on top is meet like-minded business owners, women-owned businesses just like you who are eager to export, who are eager to do business with each other even.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. I would now like to turn the virtual floor to Ambassador Houdon to share with us some of her observation in the importance of supplier diversity. Madame l'ambassadrice?
Merci beaucoup, Cindy-Ève. Nice to see you both again. Data. Let's come back to data. EDC and BDC just shared with us few slides showing data that Canadian woman-led / owned companies are not there yet, but they're producing very sustainable wealth. Like businesses being run by women are solid, robust companies. Another data show that we're not there at the table at the percentage of the number of companies being owned by women. So we need, as the government, to help and to reach out and to get you as ready as possible and first of all, to convince you to export. But we also have to convince big global companies to think about you, women entrepreneurs. And Elizabeth and I, with my team in Paris, we decided 2 years ago that we would raise awareness in France with big global companies to add woman-led companies on their list of from who they are buying from. And you know what? When you show data to those global companies, they're like, we did not know. So first of all, us as the Canadian government and ladies organization as you are running, we need to make those data visible. Second of all, Elizabeth was there in Paris with some of the women entrepreneurs in a meeting. And one of the entrepreneurs said, well, Isabel, I fully understand your approach, but why would they buy my product? And I said, well, Marie, they will buy your product because you have the damn best product. And then she kind of realized that it was not an act of generosity, but the best, you have the best product, you have the best service, we have to raise awareness with those big global companies that they have to do better. They like to say that they're good and great corporate citizens. Well, that's being part of being a corporate citizen, to give business to woman-led / owned companies. So think about this. You have the best product, you have the best service, and clients are out there ready to buy those very good product and service. And I want to tell you both ladies that you're doing an amazing job. And the list and everything that you're doing to make sure that who's on your lists makes the effort and everything that we're doing highly, highly credible.
Merci beaucoup, Madame l'ambassadrice. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Sylvia, for taking the time to join us today. I really appreciate your time in helping Canadian companies understand supply diversity. As you know, the TCS is committed to supporting Canadian women entrepreneurs of all ownership configuration, including women-owned and women-led companies. The Trade Commissioner Service has been providing programming for Canadian businesses women since 1997. Since then, women-owned focused business delegation have introduced Canadian women-owned and women-led SMEs to global market, including through a first with the Businesswomen in International Trade, business delegation to the European Union in November 2018. We are now welcoming you to follow us on Twitter and follow the hashtag 5Market3Days to know more about the ongoing Business Women in International Trade delegation. The TCS received last year an additional 10 million over 5 years through the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy that Minister Ng mentioned earlier. Since then, and with the entry into force of CETA, the TCS saw an increase not only in number of services to Canadian women entrepreneurs active in the European Union, but also of the number of Canadian business companies that are successful in Europe. The Trade Commissioner Service remains on the lookout for opportunities for Canadian women entrepreneurs all over the European Union.